Thank you everybody for joining me. My name is Jason Semenek, and I'll be hosting today's Marketing Automation for Sports Marketers user group. Thank you for joining. Brandy Starr usually hosts these events, and we are starting to have me do some of them as well. And so I am also a subject matter expert in the sports and entertainment area here at Tegrada. And so, since this is the first time I'm talking to most of you, I thought I'd better do a little bit of an introduction on myself. So, here I am. I'm a senior marketing strategy lead. I've been working in digital marketing and marketing automation for almost 20 years now. Started out working on Responses long before it was acquired by Oracle, and have since then worked with several other marketing automation tools. I really do like to focus um, on content and technology, and making sure that those two things align properly. And my focus is really on leveraging Rev Tech, which is kind of marketing and sales technology to start to power the customer experience. So thank you for joining the Sports Marketers User Group. Um, we've got a full today. And so here's our agenda. So we're going to start out with marketing automation strategy section, which is agnostic in terms of which platform you're using for your marketing automation. And our focus today is going to be what happens after IP warming. Then we'll have about 15 minutes of open discussion if anybody has any questions. We'll then do our MarTech introduction, and this week we'll be featuring SureShot. And David York will be walking us through his application there. And then at that point, we're going to switch over to a more Oracle Eloqua focused section, where we'll have Jesse Noby talk about form stack integrations. So let's jump right into it. So really what we're talking about is don't let the fire go out, life after IP warming and strategies for increasing email engagement and maintaining deliverability once you're done with the IP warming setup. So let's just do a little bit of review here. What exactly is IP warming? In case you're newer to the business or are unfamiliar with what exactly that is, really it's a methodology of increasing email send volume from a new IP address. So typically when you start using a new marketing automation platform, you're going to get an IP address assigned to your sending email, so that as you send out those emails, they appear to come from that IP address. Over the course of time, what we're trying to do is send out an increasing volume of emails over 4 to 8 weeks, so that the ISPs that you're sending your emails to start to recognize you as a valuable sender. So this is a very detailed process. It gets broken down by recipient domain, and generally takes about 4 to 8 weeks to send that series of engaging emails. And so, as I mentioned, we slowly increase the volume of that send to the point where we're sending out to the entire list. So everybody who's on your list will in one day get an email from you. And what we're doing is very closely monitoring to make sure that there are no negative impacts. And if there are, we take a series of steps to identify the issue and recover from that. So that eventually at the end of IP warming, all of the ISPs out in the that you're sending to will start to recognize your IP address as a reputable sender and will deliver your emails to the inbox. And so really the primary goal of IP warming is to establish that positive sending reputation with the internet service providers like Gmail, Outlook, and all of the other ones that you might be hitting as you send out your emails. So really, what are some of the common goals of IP warming, and how does that relate to what happens after IP warming? So really, we're establishing a baseline reputation for that new IP address. We're using this as an opportunity to start to identify any potential issues with your DNS settings, your DKIM, your SPF, all of your other deliverability settings, anything that might affect your email getting to the inbox of your recipient. And so this is an opportunity by at the start of the IP warming, you're sending out a small volume of emails until you'll be able to very quickly identify what those problems are and hopefully solve them. And over the course of that 4 to 8 weeks, you're giving ISPs the opportunity to really recognize and evaluate your sending practices to start to establish a sender score. And that sender score is a trust indicator. And so by having a high sender score, you're going to gain the trust of the ISPs, thus increasing your chances of getting the emails that you send actually into the inbox. Um, at the same time, this is a great opportunity for you to clean up your list. And so when you start up with a new marketing automation platform, you're going to need to migrate your contacts over to this new system. It's an opportunity to really do some housekeeping. And so it's a chance for you to identify and purge undeliverable email addresses, so ones that are no longer active, and to start dealing with spam complaint addresses that might negatively affect your reputation. So if you've got people who receive your emails and instead of simply unsubscribing, they report you as a spam sender, that can really have a big and long-term effect on your sending reputation. And so by slowly increasing the volume of emails that you're sending out, you can start to identify any of those spam complaint addresses and begin to remove them from your list. So now that you've done the IP warming and you've now got a great sender reputation, and you're able to send to your entire list of contacts. So now what? The first thing is don't leave your contacts hanging. I know that it's a common thing. We see it quite regularly. We're sending out such a high volume of emails to our recipients during IP warming that by the time you're done IP warming, you're exhausted and you don't have any more content necessarily to start sending out on a regular basis. And this is where really planning starts to come into play here. You need to start thinking about what your regular cadence is. And that will allow you to more closely monitor your deliverability and reputation ongoing. If you start and stop and start and stop, your deliverability score is going to drop. And so you want to make sure that you really have regular contact with your recipients. And the goal here really is engagement. We want people opening and clicking on those emails so that the ISPs recognize that the emails that you're sending are wanted and desired by the people who are receiving them. And that way they're more likely to make sure that they are routed to the inbox. The key here, have a plan. I know IP warming is generally intensive. And so making sure that you're ready to hit the crowd again as soon as IP warming is over is really quite critical. So now we're actually going to get into the real meat of what I want to talk about today. And so there's really breaking it into two broad categories in terms of what you should be thinking about once IP warming is complete. And so I want to break it down into technical tips and then content related tips. So from a technical standpoint, I'm starting to think about things that would affect your deliverability, that would be related to your DNS settings, to your sender score, and things like that. So the key thing is that we want to continue to send high volume emails on a regular basis. So you want to make sure that your cadence is set up so that you're hitting people weekly or every other week. And it doesn't need to be to your full list all at once. It can be multiple different emails going out to very segmented and targeted groups. That way you're continuing to keep your send volume high. You stay on the radar of all of the ISPs and the sender score evaluators, and you're able to maintain that good deliverability that you worked on setting up during the IP warming process. You also want to make sure that if there is a downtime, you need to rewarm your IP. So let's say that for some reason you're unable to send emails for a couple of weeks, or a couple of weeks probably isn't too bad, but let's say it's a month. After a month, your IP sender score is going to start to drop. And so my recommendation here is speak to your consultants, speak to your experts on your team, and start thinking about doing a mini IP warming, where maybe you don't send out to your full list all at once, but rather you continue to throttle your sends. So you slowly send those emails out to the IP addresses so that they re-recognize and say, oh, right, we've received emails from this group before. Let's let them in and get them into the inbox. And so the key here would be to make sure that you segment your data and speak specifically to your recipients. And so you want to make sure that, for example, you're talking to your season pass holders, your regular attendees, your fans, and make sure that you speak differently to them. And that will allow you to shrink the size of the emails that you're sending out. So rather than sending out something to everybody, you're starting to really segment your lists and do smaller email sends, which in the end will increase your engagement, because really that's the goal here. As I mentioned, you may want to continue even after IP warming, and especially after a downtime, to continue to break out your emails by domain and then throttle them appropriately. So we typically see problems with the online email recipients, and so Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail, Rocketmail, those those ISPs have a lower tolerance for high volumes of emails. And in particular, they have a low tolerance for sending emails to addresses that no longer exist or that are disabled in some way. And so making sure that you continue to throttle. So if you're going to be sending out an email to 100,000 people and 50,000 of those addresses are actually Gmail, you don't want to hit Gmail with that email all at once. You want to make sure that you spread out the send of that over a couple of days, so that there's never a flag set on your ISP to indicate that you're not a good sender. Of particular concern recently is Gmail is changing their tolerance levels constantly. And so we're seeing issues with some of our clients where even when they've got an excellent sender score and they've got a great reputation, they're not on any of the blacklists, that they're starting to see issues with Gmail deliverability. And so this is something that you'll definitely want to spend some time investigating. Make sure that you've got Google Postmaster tools set up, which will indicate to you if you've got any problems with sending emails to Gmail and help you fix those problems. And then at the same time, consider throttling those emails as you send them out in order to protect your deliverability. And a key part of monitoring that deliverability is to make sure that you monitor your results. And so check your hard and soft bounces. Hard bounces are those ones where the email address no longer exists for some reason. And so you want to make sure that you remove those from your list. And then analyze your soft bounces. Sometimes those soft bounce messages give you a clue to what's going on at the ISP side of things. And they may indicate to you that you've been flagged as a high volume sender, or there's been too many spam complaints related to your IP, or any number of problems. And you can start to better analyze and modify your sending behavior to account for that. It may also give you some direction in terms of who to contact at specific ISPs in order to make sure that your emails get whitelisted and sent to the inboxes. At the same time, you want to be sure to be monitoring spam complaints. And so we spoke about that a little bit earlier. When people mark your emails as spam, this is a really detrimental thing in terms of your sender reputation. And you want to move quickly to make sure that those spam complainers are removed and suppressed from any future emails going out the door. That is a critical step that a lot of businesses miss, is this monitoring step. They figure, great, IP warming is done. I'm able to send out emails. Let's go, go, go. And they forget to do the extra step of monitoring in the long run. If you are having issues or you're concerned about deliverability in the long run, you may want to consider investing in some of the paid deliverability tools that are available out there in the marketplace. They will help you analyze your emails. They will analyze your inbox placement and work with you to make sure that you're doing everything you can to ensure that your emails are hitting the inbox. And then one of the things that leads directly into the content side of things, personalize your emails whenever possible. We all know that personalizing an email, even with just a dear first name, is enough to get people more engaged in those emails. And that's one of the best metrics that your ISPs are looking at when analyzing your emails is that engagement. So they'll be able to say, great, lots of people are opening and clicking these emails. This is obviously a great sender. So let's continue to send those out or into the inboxes. Any questions at this point? Feel free to raise your hand or send them in via the chat, and Jessica will make sure that I get those questions and we can start addressing any questions that you might have. The flip side of the coin that we have here is that there's content related considerations in terms of what to do after IP warming. So right now, I've got a few things that I wanted to talk about here. So content. So in terms of the content, we want to make sure that we have custom content for each interest level. So speak to your contacts in a way that acknowledges what you already know about them. If they're a season pass holder, if they're a super fan, if they're an out of towner, if they've got a favorite player, we can start to really customize the content that we're sending to people to increase engagement. And that's the goal in the long run, is engagement, because it also works for in terms of selling tickets and increasing your fan base, but it also helps keep and maintain your branding and deliverability status. In addition, the next thing that we want to take a look at is make sure that you send emails year round. A lot of teams will primarily send during the regular season or in the lead up to the season. And when the time comes around for playoffs or the off seasons, the send volumes drops precipitously. And that can be a real concern because you're going to have to then work to rebuild your sender score and your deliverability reputations. So as a double win, you also get to keep your fans engaged, even in the off season or during playoffs, and make sure that you get that continued ongoing interest in your team, even when people are not, even when your team is not actually playing. We want to make sure that we send highly engaging content. And so what we want to really focus on here is how do we get the person to click on your emails and spend time on your website? And we already know that videos are really a key driver of engagement. Anytime that you've got a video in your emails, you're going to see a big bump in engagement. People love to see moving pictures. People love to see actual videos of your arenas or your players or of a practice or even of your mascot, for example. You might also be able to record messages from specific players. So finding out what your players are doing to get ready for preseason, or what they're doing in their off season, even their workout routines, or how they travel. All of those types of things, whether it's a video or written, anything that seems to be related to a player, and especially a high profile player, is going to really increase engagement. And then, of course, if there's any special announcements, that's the third high engagement tactic. So if there's a special event that's going on, an open practice, or at a game having a special event happen at a game, like a teddy bear toss or something like that, those types of emails generally get great engagement as well, because people like to be able to participate and know about what's coming up at your game. And then finally, give people a choice. This is really key, and it's really kind of an advanced marketing tactic. Make sure that you use a professionally built preference center to allow fans to choose what emails they're going to get from you. So maybe they don't want to hear about your arena, but they do want to hear about events that might be happening, so concerts or things like that might be happening at the arena, but they don't want to hear anything else. And so give them the opportunity to do that. rather than it being a blanket unsubscribe, give people the choice. And so some advanced ideas that you might want to consider is giving people the opportunity to pause the emails that they receive from you. So they're going on vacation, or it is actually the off season and they don't want to hear from you during the off season. Give them the opportunity to pause their emails for 2 weeks or 2 months or more, so that they're not actually unsubscribing. You get to keep them on your list, but you're respecting their wishes in terms of what emails they're going to be getting. And then another great thing that you can do is set up a way to set a limit on the number of emails that they would receive from you per month. Of course, nobody wants to be getting, 50 emails from anybody, even if you're a super fan. You don't want to be getting 50 emails from your team in a week. And so nobody, of course, is going to do that. However, if people really only want to receive 1 or 2 emails from you per month, there are ways in almost every marketing automation platform to set this up. And we kind of call it contact level governance in terms of how many emails a person can get per month. And when they reach that max, it goes on a priority basis. So if we know that the person really only wants 2 emails a month, we'll make sure that they get the high priority emails during that month, as opposed to just the typical fan engagement email. And so all of those things are going to really help improve your engagement, which in turn will protect your branding and deliverability. And as an excellent side benefit, everybody wants to increase engagement with their fan base. And so one reminder from a previous automation or sports marketing automation group session that Brandy did is to make sure that you're always testing. Look for new ways to engage your fans. Look for new ways to get increased engagement. And so look at things like subject lines, pretext, the design, the calls to action, what kind of content you're actually including, and give yourself an opportunity to improve as opposed to just sticking to a single template. All right. So that is really what I wanted to cover off in terms of what should happen after IP warming. Before we open it up for having our discussion here, I wanted to send out a little poll because, and so, we talk about engagement, and email is just one way that we want to be engaging our fans. And so I'm curious right now, I'm going to pop up a poll on the screen for everybody. I want people to be able to tell me how you currently engage with your fans. And so I've got a few different things in there. And if you engage with your fans in a way that isn't listed here, maybe we can talk about that during the discussion session. So I'll leave this poll open for a couple more minutes here to allow people to get their results in. Just pause. Give everybody a chance to grab a sip of coffee. All right, we're getting some great answers here, and it's definitely looking like most people definitely use email, but looks like there's a lot of people who use Facebook and Instagram as well. So that's great. I'm glad to hear that we're reaching out to people on multiple different platforms. I'm very interested to see that there is 26% of people so far are do SMS and text messaging, which leads directly into our the next section of our presentation today. Perfect. All right. So the poll is closed. And so let's take a look if I can share the results here. Share the poll results. All right. So I'm not sure if you're able to see this on screen. But of the people who actually answered, 57% definitely use email. The next best one is Facebook at 43%. 39% use Instagram, so almost the same number. There is a large number of people who use SMS and text messaging as well. Then we get printed and mailed material, and then 10 people didn't have time to answer. So I think that gives us a really good baseline in terms of where people are spending their budget to communicate and engage with their fan base.